This video is brought to you by A Main Hobbies, RoachRC, and RC Trophy Chasers. Click the links in the description below. Fun fact, this was originally going to be a video about sponsorships, but I kind of hit a wall with how I wanted to word it, and at a certain point I didn't think it would make for such a good video if I had to force my words. If you guys want to see me make a video about sponsorships in the future, let me know in the comments below. For now though, let's get to the topic at hand. Other than the Agama N1E I reviewed previously, the Kyosho MP10e is probably one of the more unique e-buggies on the market today. Mostly down to the battery layout, but we'll get to that later. I've run this buggy 2 times on 2 different race days. In this video I'll be taking a quick look at it, our first impressions if you will. Before we begin however, it's time to talk about this channel's sponsors. First off, I'd like to thank RoachRC, your one-stop shop for anything and everything related to cleaning and maintaining your RC cars in racing, bashing, and crawling. If you'd like to save a bit on your next purchase from RoachRC, be sure to check out their website at KyoshoRC.com and use code RoachRC, all caps no spaces, at checkout to save 5%. Next up, I'd like to thank RC Trophy Chasers. RC Trophy Chasers is a hobby shop based in the Carolinas, and they carry Motive motors, Mach 1 servos, DFX batteries, and dialed RC tires, all of which I've either used personally and enjoy, or have seen other used to do very well, like Aiden Ridgway. They also carry everything from driver tools to lead finger bodies, so if you need anything along those lines and want to save 10% off each item, be sure to check out their website at rctrophychasers.net and use code RoachRC565, all caps no spacing, to do so. And lastly, we have A Main Hobbies, the largest RC distributor in the United States. Anything you guys purchase using the links in the description below will directly support me as well. Right then, let's talk about the Kyosho's e-buggy. Once upon a time, Kyosho was on the top of the world when it came to 8th scale, having the most 8th scale IFMAR wins totaling at 8, and having one hell of a team from drivers like Cody King and Mark Pavitas. These days, Kyosho, thanks to a bout with bankruptcy and a few other outside factors, has taken sort of a backseat in terms of popularity, at least here in the United States, especially compared to the dominance of Techno, Associated Electronics, S-Works, and Mugen. So what exactly does the Kyosho bring to the table compared to those other more popular brands, and would I recommend this car to someone from the outset? Well, let's figure that out together. The Kyosho MP10e TKI2, that's a mouthful, is the latest iteration of the Inferno platform from Kyosho's 8th scale e-buggies and has some characteristics that make it more unique compared to other cars on the market today. It's also important to note that you can buy the MP10 as an RTR as well, with a few different plastic parts like plastic steering hubs instead of aluminum ones, and no shock boots, I think. However, it still should do well in the hands of a decent driver. Before you get carried away talking about RTRs though, why don't we talk about how this thing went together and what it's like to work on. I'll be honest, the Kyosho isn't exactly the most beginner-friendly kit to build. It doesn't come with any oils to start with, so you'll need to supply your own for both the shocks and diffs. Lots of the parts come on parts trees and will need to be cut using hobby snips. There's a lot of backtracking with different bags and steps in the process itself, and the manual is in half Japanese. None of these things are issues if you are either an experienced builder or have watched a few of Ryan Luss's videos, which I will link in the description below if you want a much better idea of how to build the MP10 effectively. For me personally, the build went smoothly enough, but it did take me a bit longer than other builds I've done in the past. As for working on it, I need to address something. You may have noticed how dirty the car is, as you can see it on screen right now. Well, there's the thing about that. Cleaning this car can be a major pain, as there's a bunch of cracks and crevices around the buggy to make it lighter, which is great if you want to go faster, but not so much if you want an easy car to clean. This is after a quick rinse and dry after a run on a very moist and damp track. I'll do a full teardown to clean it more thoroughly in the future. I just wanted to get this video out sooner rather than later. It has been a while, hasn't it? As for simple things like getting through the differentials and other internals, well, once again, it's a wee bit more tricky compared to other buggies on the market today. Not nearly as bad as an older design like an HB E8 Worlds Edition, but not as easy as a Techno or a Gamma. Also, for the center diff, the plastic part that holds it in place doesn't split like in other cars, so in order to change it you need to remove it. Luckily, even with all the negatives I've piled up on so far in this section, doing a full teardown on this car is fairly easy all things considered. Removing the battery trays takes like 3 screws each, and doing something like replacing the chassis doesn't take very long either. Overall, the MP10e TKI2 may have a few downsides in terms of building and working on it, but there are some good points to help balance it out, enough to where working on it and tearing down your car isn't a complete chore. Now then, let's talk a little bit about the design. The design of the Kyosho is interesting in terms of its layout. Much like other e-buggies on the market today, it uses a saddle pack system in favor of less weight. Unlike other buggies though, those batteries aren't straddling the center driveline in the rear. They run almost as far out as they will go on the chassis, hovering over the side guards. This is to spread the weight of the car out as far as possible to create an extremely stable car. Also, you think wiring this thing would be an absolute nightmare, but it's not. It's actually pretty easy thanks to the wire tie-downs on the chassis and attached to the center diff mount. The last thing I wanted to mention about the MP10e is the fact that it's a C-hub car. This is both a good and a bad thing for the majority of drivers out there. Good in that if you want an easier car to drive, C-hub cars tend to be exactly that. And bad in that if you want to change your caster angle, you'll have to shell out some serious cash for extra caster blocks. Now then, let's talk about how this thing drives. What you're seeing is the car on Loganville RC Complex during a Friday night race, so the footage may be a bit blurry and I apologize for that. However, I hope you can see that the car drives quite well even with a suboptimal setup. We'll get to that point a little later. The extremely wide weight profile makes the car very stable at speed, and on a track layout where there's a lot of high speed turns and bumps and jumps, that's a huge boon to you as a driver to have a car that doesn't get upset when you throw a little bit of throttle at it. On the other hand, the MP10 did feel a bit slow in the 180-degree hairpins. This could be down to my initial setup, I'm running 22 degrees of caster, but it could also be down to the fact that the weight of this buggy is very spread out and not close to the center driveline. Because of physics reasons I'm far underqualified to explain, this means the Kyosho MP10e doesn't like to rotate as fast as other buggies like with a saddle pack system. This makes the Kyosho easier to drive for the average driver, which is great, but slightly slower compared to other buggies as well, which is a deal breaker for the top 1% of drivers out there. For the other 99% of us, this means that out of all buggies that you can buy right now, if you want the easiest car to drive, the Kyosho is probably going to be your best bet if you don't care about anything else. The MP10 is best in class in that regard in my opinion. I already really enjoy how this car drives, and I can confidently say it's nowhere near optimal for the track as a whole. Sway bars the car comes with are a bit too stiff for the majority of lower grip or bumpy tracks here in the United States, and the pistons that the stock comes with have angled holes, effectively making them longer. This once again is good for high grip situations, but not so much for other lower grip bumpy situations. Luckily on the piston part of the kit, it comes with 8-hole pistons as well, although they are on parts trees. So if you want to run on most tracks in the US, I'd recommend starting with those. I'm still working out a good setup for the car, but I think I'll start with the sway bars and work my way down a bit from stock. The last two things I want to talk about for this video will be part support and durability. Now I have crashed this thing hard on some very high speed parts of the track and nothing has broken as of yet, but this only accounts for 2 long race days. There's still plenty of room for this car to break in. I've heard some rumblings of front arms breaking a bit easier than other cars, but so far I've been fairly lucky. Thing is, you can never be too careful, so I did order some replacement parts, specifically arms and other stress parts off of A-Main Hobbies. This leads me to the parts support for the MP10. Even though the parts support may not be as good as say a Techno or Team Associated, it is easy to find parts online retailers like A-Main Hobbies and large racetime-like events like Wicked Weekend or AMS to smaller arena-style races like Peach State Classic. You aren't limited to one place to buy your parts or kits in general, and depending on where you live, you can expect to get your parts fairly quickly. Just be sure to stock up on parts not normally carried that you may think will fail in the future. Now, I will be doing a full-blown review of this car at the end of the outdoor season here in Georgia, so I have a sufficient amount of knowledge on the platform as a whole before rendering full-blown judgment, so stay tuned for that. And thank you for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video and would like to see more, be sure to hit the like button and sub to the channel if you haven't already. Also, I'd like to thank my active patrons for supporting me. If you'd like to support this channel, be sure to check the description below, I'd also like to thank my active patrons Micah Williams, RC World Discord server, Casey Nix, Ben Reeves, Dave Armstrong, Rob Bedingfield, Caden Merks, Ian Petrie, Betty Howell, Zach Hawes, Jeffrey Kunz, James D. Anderson, and especially Morrison Wan. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.